Alright guys, so for assignment 5 we're going to be doing something a little bit different than what we've been doing in the past, and I'm going to try to orient you guys with the layout space a little bit more than what we've spent time on in class and with these assignments. Mostly we've just been drawing things in Civil 3D, but now I'm going to show you how to utilize the layout space a little bit better so that your drawings are presented nicer and convey a little bit more information. So we're going to start with our surface that we had drawn in previous assignments. You can still get this on assignment 4 for base surface drawing file. I think that's what it is. So you can just re-download that file, and we're going to use that again here. So the first thing I want to do is, so we have our points and we have our surface, and that's great and all. But what we don't have is some sort of reference point. We don't know what any of this means in space. It's just around and we've drawn it, but it's not anywhere. So what we need to do is just start typing map cs assign. So you see it comes up over there as a command, and what this is going to do is this is going to allow me to choose some sort of reference system. So whether it be like lat longs, things like that, it lets me choose a system in which to orient my surface. So if you were to see me plot this real quickly, you would see zoom. All right, you would see just this space over here. I want to get rid of that because this is kind of in the way. So it's just a space, and we don't have a lot of information about it. So let's go back and do map cs assign, and let's search for Virginia. And let's try to choose something pretty recent, and we want feet. We are using the AutoCAD Civil 3D in feet. And I'm going to choose this one right here. So this is the NSRS 2011. Oh, that's West Virginia. We want to do just Virginia. Yeah, we want the Virginia State Plains Coordinate System. So we'll choose that, North Zone, and assign. Great. Well, let's move back over here. One thing that you can immediately notice is that our compass actually tilted. And that is because north is actually in the direction that it's pointing, and it's not just straight up and down like it was before. Now that we have some sort of reference system, we know which way is north. So we've been looking at it this way the whole time, and we might have been assuming that north was just straight up and down in the orientation that we're viewing it, but it's actually in a little bit different of a direction. So one thing I want to do to kind of start off with here is actually input a reference system into this space. So what we want to do, and I'll get out of this real quick, is that we want to go to Layout Tools and then go to Reference System, and it asks us to choose a viewport. So this is our viewport of our drawing or our model. So we're going to select that, and we want to use the current map coordinate system. So there's a couple of different types of reference systems or coordinate systems that you can use. We want to use the one that we chose, which is the NSRS 2011 Virginia State Plains North Zone, US in feet, and it's giving us a scale and a precision of up to 200 feet. Now you can change this, and it's going to change how many of these lines are around. So this is like every 200 feet. So if you zoom in, so you see 4,800, 5,000. These are all referenced to what that coordinate system that we're using uses. So the Virginia State Plains. So that's what all of these mean. So when we choose that, this is what pops up. And what's nice is that we can move this around, and this system will, or these references will move with that, which makes a lot of sense. So let's say I moved that. You can still see 5200 still going like kind of through this little triangle piece over here, 5200. Now we see 54. So let's move that back in to space. And you can see it kept with it. So we can move our drawing all around all we want. We can even zoom in if we want, and it'll stay as the appropriate reference system. So cool. So what if you didn't have a compass already sitting there? Well, let's go over that real quick. So I'm going to delete my compass. And what I want to do is go to my north arrow, and I can select one. So let's select arrow 10. And we want to select a viewport for the north arrow. I want to actually put it over here. So I'm gonna select. Oh, it wants my viewport first for where the north arrow will be. So let's select this viewport, as in this is where the north arrow is going to work from. And now I'm going to choose the location of the north arrow, which is going to be over here. You can see super tiny, but it did come up already pointing in the north direction as it's supposed to be. So that's cool. So to make it bigger, I select it and I take this little grip over here. So this is to adjust the scale and make that larger. So tell that that's not doing too much, but now we can make it so that it is appropriately sized. So brilliant. All right, so now we've kind of changed our north arrow style, and we know how to input that, and we have a reference system. So there are a few other things that I want to go through before we would say that this drawing has adequate information. So let's say we want to, we're drawing this for some sort of organization or for some company, and we want to, I'm going to delete this, we want to put our logo over here. Okay, well, what we want to do is we want to go to Insert, and we're going to go Insert over here, or excuse me, Attach over here, and this is under Reference. So we're going to attach. And I'm going to attach a logo that I made for CE2010, and I'll provide this in the assignment as well. Basically, this is like, let's say I'm working for company CE2010. Instead of just putting our company name, it's nice to have like a logo that represents the company itself. So I'm going to hit OK, and it wants me to select an insertion point, and let's just say it's like kind of right down there, and it wants me to draw its size. Let's do that. So perfect. Now we have this cool little logo in here. So if I want to move this particular object, I'm going to have to type in move and hit enter, select the object, enter, specify base point, and let's say I want to move it right about there. Brilliant. Okay, so now I have my logo, I have a reference system, and I have a compass. So what I'd also want to do is put in a sheet number. So this is probably just going to be 1 of 1. I'm not making any more sheets here. Plot date. So this, let's just say, is 9/26/2018. Okay. We're going to name this drawing Assignment 5. Okay. And we'll get to scale in just a second. So one thing that we definitely want to do here is also insert a scale, of course. So we want to go back to our layout tools, and we want to put in a scale bar. There are many different types of scale bars here. I'm just going to select one of the imperial ones. So let's go with scale bar 3. And we're going to select our viewport. So this is my division. So this is how often our scale bar is divided. It's giving me 100 feet right now. What I want to do, or 104 feet, 0.1125. That's because we've zoomed in to the extent, so it's coming up with its own tailored scale. But let's say I want to do every 100 feet. What it wants to do is it wants to show 2 ticks that you can see here. So it wants to show 100 and 200. So that's what it was going to do before, is put out 104 and 208. And it would be just a little bit longer. But we want to do it every 100 feet. So here is my scale, and what's nice about that is if I go into my viewport, it scales down as I zoom in and out. It stays steady with that reference. So let's say I want to do a scale of 1 inch equals 60 feet. Well, you see that changed with it. So let's do 1 inch equals 30 feet. You can see it blows up and it gets huge. And 1 inch equals 100 feet. So there you go. And this would be like 1 inch in real life, like in real space. So on the drawing itself, that would be 1 inch. So let's go back to 1 inch equals 60 feet right there. So excellent. All right, so I'm going to get out of my drawing space, and we have everything kind of set over here. So the next thing I wanted to do is add a legend. So there really isn't much on this map, and with the points included on this map, to actually include a legend without having to draw a whole bunch of different blocks, and we're not going to go through that. So there's a different way that we can add a legend here. So what I want to do is I want to select this surface, right click, and go to Surface Properties. Alright, and if we go under the Information tab, remember before we chose our surface style to be contours of 2 feet and 10 feet. That is something that we had did in the past. I asked you guys to kind of mess around with that. Maybe we did 5 feet and 25. Instead, what we're going to actually do here is we're going to go to Elevation Banding, select that, and hit Apply. You can see it immediately gets like really colorful, and that's because these colors are representing different elevations. But we want to change that. That doesn't mean a whole lot to us because we know that what we had before, this doesn't really look like the contours too much, right? So if I hit Apply, it follows some of them, but there's still a few missing down here that it's not really representing. So let's go back to the elevation banding and hit Apply. Yeah, you can see there's just a huge red chunk. It's all purple up here. So we want to go to Analysis over here. And this is going to let us analyze our elevations. That's the only thing that we have in this surface, is elevations. I'm sorry. So Surface Properties. So what we want to do is we want to change the ranges over here, so we can select how many of these different colors there are by multiple different means. So here I can set the number, but here I can set different range types. So I want to do it by range interval. You can choose number of ranges, and it'll just create arbitrary ranges based off of what your elevations are. I'm going to choose the interval, and I'm going to make it 2 feet. So every 2 feet, I want the color to change. And what I have to do, so this is my lowest elevation, or like my base elevation, and I want to run analysis. So now that I've set these parameters, it goes through all the elevations, and it creates a list of 10 here, different colors. Now it could choose as many as it needs to based on what your elevation change is. It could create 15 or 20 or whatever if you have a lot of change in elevation and it requires this many intervals. But for this, it's only 2 feet, and it only needs 10 of these intervals. So I'm going to hit Apply. You see it changed, and now this makes a little bit more sense. We know that it gradually increased in elevation as we moved through this this map. So this is making a little bit more sense over here. So I'm going to hit Apply, and OK. Well, this is great, but we still need a legend here. So what I want to do is actually insert a legend for this. So I'm going to select the surface itself, and you see now we're in tin surface, ground surface over here, and we want to add a legend. So before that, I want to show you guys a really quick trick. Down here at the scale in the bottom right, I'm going to adjust this to 1 inch equals 10 feet. And then I'm going to select this surface again. So remember, we're not changing with the scale how long or how wide or what the distance changes here. We're just changing the scale. So when I draw this legend, it's actually going to draw it to the scale that I provide. So we'll be able to see something that happens when we go back into our layout space. But first I want to do the legend. So I hit to create the legend, and I'm going to choose elevations. I'm going to choose dynamic, which means that it's going to change based off of how I change what these elevations are. So I'm going to select right there, and you see it created this legend pretty small, and that's because I chose this the scale over here, my drawing scale. So now it's a little bit smaller. If it was bigger, so if I do Control Z, and let's say I did 1 inch equals 100 feet, and I selected this surface and add legend, elevations, dynamic, see how large it is? So it draws this based off of the drawing scale that's set. Ooh. So let's get rid of that. And go back to 1 is 10. Add legend, elevations, dynamic, right there. And you can see this is telling me the range, so the minimum and maximum of each color, and the actual total area of these sections. So that's really useful information, and we want that in our layout tab. So I'm going to go back over here, and you can see our table. Now this is where people would be confused of, well, I set it over here, and now when I go to layout it's different, and that is just totally normal. So to make this actually fit inside of our layout, I want to do edit label, or what was the exact name of it? It's edit table style, and I want to go to the data properties tab, and I'm going to change all of these text styles. So let's make all of these half as big as they are, and let's set this to, let's just say 08, just a little bit bigger. I'm gonna hit apply. You can see already now it fits. Okay, well, that's great. Now we were able to include this table, and it actually fits. So what I want to do now is I want to make everything a little bit more readable in here. So I want to kind of move things around so that they're not overlapping too much everywhere. And now I have a very nice drawing in which I have some very detailed visual information, a legend, a table that tells me what all of these colors mean, a scale, so a reference of how big everything is in the map, and I know where north is. I've shown my company name, we have our file name and our plot date. The last bit of information that we need is the scale, so you can see that we changed this a while back to 1 inch equals 60 feet. So we can go in here and do 1 inch is 60 feet and hit OK. And then we would want to plot this and submit it for assignment 5. So now we have a lot more information going on, so we can understand our drawings a little bit better, and we can use these tools for later projects down the road. I hope this was helpful, and this assignment will be due, I believe, on October 4th. So it'll be due then. All right, thanks guys.